Hello and welcome to Root Causes, the PKI and Security podcast, where a pair of industry veterans talk about all matters digital certificates and PKI. As always, I'm here with Jason Sirocco, and once again, we have our guest, Chris McGrath. Welcome back, Chris.
Very nice to be here.
And again, we are recording live in front of an audience in Atlanta. How you doing, Atlanta? All right, so we have to talk about the topic that Jason and I just can't get away from. Post-quantum cryptography, the quantum apocalypse. Chris, I know you have a lot of thoughts on this, so let's get into them.
Oh, you've just hit me with that one right between the eyes.
Chris, I'll let me tee you up. So, you know, the first in the series of podcasts that we did together, you talked about who owns the risk. You're talking a lot about connecting certificates in general to the C-suite and to other people who own risk in an organization. A lot of people who have never thought about this ubiquitous technology now have to think about it.
Yeah.
And I think that post-quantum as a topic is now its own set of risk for the C-suite. So therefore, this podcast is really about the relationship between the risk owners and post-quantum.
Yeah. And I think we can simplify it in terms of what does quantum actually mean? And again, if you try and raise quantum in a boardroom right now, good luck to you. It's literally teaching theory, physics. But what does it actually mean in terms of that? It's nothing different to the AI revolution that we went through. And I think it caught everybody off guard. It caught industry off guard in terms of when it came into play, we had to very, very quickly react and adopt to that risk. What quantum is actually doing is actually saying to industry is we know we've probably got a 3-year window to the next set of a big jump in risk. We this time won't be caught off guard. And at board level, we've got to now tangibly respond to that and be prepared. And I think that's fundamentally what quantum is telling us.
We've been given some targets, I guess I would say, if nothing else from NIST, but a variety of other regulations too. There's been a lot of collapsing on 2030 as a particular date, August 2030, if you want to be super precise. Are we going to make that?
It's a very good question, I think, and it changes from business to business. And again, it goes back to that maturity within the board and the prioritization of the board to make that happen. Is we know that typically if the board, if you're not mature, it's going to be a very slow adoption to that process. And I think, again, opportunity is it'll be very interesting to see which businesses come out in 2026 and can state that they are PQC ready. And I guarantee, sorry, apologies, but I guarantee you that will clarify to us which ones are more mature.
I think I agree with you on that. I think also there's going to be a lot of squishiness on what PQC ready actually means.
Correct.
And probably a lot of creative interpretation on the term, so we can say yes.
Yes. I think, again, it goes back to my point, which is interpreting what is actually the risk. Okay, so when we talk about being PQC ready, if you look at the common theme across all of the different national and federal level direction, the first part of that is discovery. And so if we just take PQC in that core term, what it's actually saying is you don't need to have everything in place by 2028. What we expect you to have is you need to have visibility on all of your assets and at what stage they are and what risk they are. And that is the common theme across all of it.
You talked in an earlier episode about the point that these things are going to be, that other aspects of security with your PKI, for instance, are codified in regulation and are going to require auditability. I don't see anything yet that's at that level of specificity, certainly in terms of auditability in the PQC space. I do figure it's coming, though. Do you agree?
I agree, and I think is like with every change, I look towards the technology. And certainly I've seen now a very significant push for tools and solutions now coming onto the market to do that mapping process. And that's a good indicator for the fact that it's coming.
Chris, what I'll offer with that answer is the NSA has been very specific in their prescription compared to other organizations. And I think that says that if you want to do business with the U.S. federal government, you're probably going to have to follow something very specific.
Yeah. And I think that's, if you look at the maturity of industry-specific regulation, that is the changing that will come into place. If you want to do business with defense, it is now very highly specified in terms of what they expect from you and what they expect from your supply chain. And that will be the same for public sector, and it'll be the same for government. They will have their own very prescriptive requirements. And like we've seen in the UK, if you do not meet that requirement, you simply will not be allowed onto those frameworks. That's it.
So do you see other industry sectors apart from that are going to be on the vanguard for PQC protection?
I think one of the key areas is we've seen in the UK, certainly in Europe, is healthcare. Healthcare has been a huge target over the years, and probably it just doesn't have the maturity. So I can see it being applied very much to healthcare and the standards in healthcare.
Yeah.
Tim, since we have you on stage, publicly trusted PQC.
When?
Yeah.
When? That's a tough one because, the problem is it turns out that there are a lot of baseline assumptions in all of our connectivity software, stuff that was baked 30 years ago that doesn't fit the current acceptable PQC algorithms. Literally, keys are too big, handshakes are too short, and solving these problems is phenomenally hard. So there is a very serious discussion about fundamentally re-architecting the entire, what we'll call SSL, TLS handshake, the key exchange method in a basic way. But this is huge. This is rebuilding it from the ground up. And I will fairly say that at this point, nobody knows when that process will be complete. And until that process is complete, everybody downstream of it is just marking time.
So the real reason I asked you the question, Tim, was to line up Chris to start talking about some scary things, which is Tim is talking about a real reality of just how hard it's going to be just for one use case.
Yeah.
Never mind everything else you look at in terms of the private world, etc. And so I can see why there isn't so much of a prescriptive maturity model yet, and which is I consider you a true expert on, is this maturity model concept in cybersecurity. And so therefore, how do you think that's going to evolve? And I'll throw this in just because I always throw in this dig. How do you deal with just the fact that everybody with electricity has a Microsoft CA out there, and Microsoft's not even offering a clear upgrade path to PQC? Go ahead, Chris.
Whoa, Jesus. Talk about a question. Now, look, let's be realistic, okay? Economically, we've got to consider everything that we do in security within the reality of business as usual, okay? So the process in which, if you enforce something across businesses as a whole, it has significant business impacts. And that's a reality. And as you say, I've heard lots of conversations about the transition to post-quantum encryption and all of those processes. This is, first and foremost, I think we need to put this in perspective, and the reality check is the first process around this is having an industry-recognized process that works. And the first part of that has to be, fundamentally, is an agreement on the approach. And that can't be done in industry, and it can't be done individually. It has to be done nationally. And some of the projects I'm currently working on at the moment is, I would say having that approach enforced by the national level will be a real assistance to most businesses.
Tim, I'm going to ask one question as we get towards the end of this podcast, which is, Chris, on this podcast, we have talked about an interesting potential future where we're going to live past 2030 with operational, but fundamentally insecure systems.
Yep.
And that...
I think it's a sure thing, at least to some
It's
degree.
a sure thing.
Yeah.
I think that forward-looking, visionary cybersecurity thinkers like yourself, who are being asked to think ahead really far in advance, what are you thinking in terms of how we're going to deal with that?
It's like anything. We're in a race. Okay, so I said, I think earlier on in one of my talks, is that we're in a race for cyber power. We're in a race for information, but we shouldn't look at it as a scary thing. Okay, like the risk, we equally have the ability to adopt the advantage in terms of AI. We have the adoption in technology and automation, and so I don't think this should be a scary process for any business in terms of looking ahead to 2030. Fundamentally, is the technology will allow certain states to be able to decrypt faster and quicker. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a process, and like I say to everybody, is the majority of businesses can simply, I would say, in the first instance, is make themselves a reduced target by having better visibility in terms of their online assets and demonstrating to those threats that it's a managed piece. Okay, and I always say this with every threat as it emerges in cyberspace, is everyone and everything is determined around probably a 1 second look. Okay, most operations we do in some of cyber threats, they probably spend around no more than 10 seconds looking at your business to make a decision. So fundamentally changing process will reduce that threat.
So this is a don't be the slowest antelope kind of approach.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's unfortunately, you don't want to be the last person sat there with a load of legacy certificates online when they start looking.
So I'm going to spend the last couple seconds translating a little bit of what I heard, which is the ability for you to take a legacy system and then really segment it off where it normally is, so that look is minimized.
Yes.
Is going to become a bit of a cottage industry, I think, in the near future. So there you go. Some rich people are going to be made off of that.
Yep.
Thanks for that,
Maybe
Chris.
some people here.
Thank you.
Thanks much. This has been Root Causes.
Thanks, guys.